Welcome, beautiful people, to Petrify the Patriarchy. I'm your guide, Jo B. If you're ready to unearth the subtle ways patriarchal culture has shaped your world and uncover the hidden power within your own shadow, you're in the right place. Here we don't just speak truth to power, we wield it, turning stagnant energies to stone so that your authentic, liberated self can truly flourish. Let the unlearning begin. Welcome back, my visionaries. I am Jo B, your guide through this journey of petrifying the patriarchy. I am feeling a little bit on the roll with telling my story. It's been not something that I've publicly talked about. It's not something I've been super vulnerable about. And here I am, feeling ready to continue the story so that you all have a better understanding of how it is that I came to this idea that petrifying the patriarchy is a good place to land ourselves. In my last story episode, I left off with where my district, after doing their HR thing, said that my complaint was unfounded. Which I took to mean, and really honestly feels like I'm not being believed, that my experience and my truth and my perception of my own reality had no foundation to stand on. And that piece was such a knife to the gut. It's what became a mission for me to try to get to the bottom of. And so the story continues from here. My district said, guess what? Unfounded. And that's where I went into oh, the fuck it's not mode. And I decided to appeal their decision. Now, every district, every organization has a way of dealing with sexual harassment, and every process and protocol is going to vary depending on, state, district, you name it. So, my particular district, if you appealed an HR decision, it automatically bumped you to a special session with the board. And there was no real in between anything. It was just, we're gonna name this what we think it should be named. And in my opinion, not having a metric to decide anything. I'm sorry, my dog is chewing on a bone right next to me, and I'm sure it's super loud and gross and annoying. Little, come here. I call him Little, short for little asshole. But his full name is Rip Roarin' Zipzoomy McDick. Side note. Okay, so the appeal, the metric that I was asking to see, a rubric, some sort of if this then that kind of situation. They had nothing. They could produce nothing for me. And so it felt very subjective. And really, honestly, because now I knew he had lost his certificate in another state, he has a history of doing really shady shit, and he's going to get away with it again, right? Like, if it's one thing I know, men have a pattern that they follow, and it may not show up, right then and there, but, now we're talking, I don't know how many years later, I don't remember when that decision was made for this particular educator, but so many years later, and again, he never put his hands on me. Everything was this vibe and these subtle movements, motions, positionings that really allowed me to feel off center at the very least and uncomfortable 100% of the time. So for my district to say it's unfounded, and now I have this other information, which I've also taken to the district. Now HR is like, oh shit, we gotta protect our organization real fast, and so we're not gonna found this. We're not gonna say anything about it. So I'm sure, because again, their practice, their policy was 20 years old at this point, I'm sure it needed to have some sort of super egregious something. Like, I filed a police report because he was stalking me, or he did, show himself to me, or he attempted to put his hands on me, or, right? Like, I'm sure that a Hollywood version of something was needed for HR to go, okay, crap. This sucks, but oh crap. But because nothing super... nothing really enormous or something that would immediately catch someone's eye was addressed or considered, oh yeah, that's a big red flag. It was unfounded. So I appealed the process, and I spent several days going through a video that we had to watch. So when, again, every district is different. In my district, I had to watch a certain number of videos that all had something to do with legalities and policy. And one of them was sexual harassment. They started to create these videos that we had to watch on our own time. Because it ate up so much time during our in-service days at the beginning of the school year. And so this became an easy way for educators to get the information the district needed you to have without taking in-person time up. So it was asynchronous work. And sexual harassment video was there. It was, I don't know, I think it was about a 20-minute video. And you have to take a quiz along the way to show that you're actually listening to what is being said in the video. And I went back through that video and over the course of days listened to all these different aspects of that video and broke it down into bullet points and said, this happened to me. And now you're saying I had to watch this video, take a test, and prove that I listened to this video and not do these things that are stated here, but he can? I don't understand. Like, here's a video explicitly laying out all the things that are sexual harassment. Here are all the things that he did to me. Here are all the things I know he did to others who have now come forward to speak to me. I know they didn't file paperwork. However, there are more people that have been harmed by this individual. And that's when I started getting phone calls and emails from the superintendent of HR, the district's attorney, all requesting meetings with me. So I don't know, I probably had 3 or 4 meetings. I can't remember exactly, but it's me, a woman, in a room with 3 men, all at the helm of a giant school district whose sole job it is to prevent more money from leaving. And every single one of them apologized to me. I'm so sorry this happened. Which I took as recognition that, okay, dude harassed you. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about it based on this policy that's 20 years old. And I sat there and I talked to them and I gave them a big old lesson. I gave them a lesson on the HR person who was hung up on why I never said no, and how no can be a variety of things. inaction, no follow through. It can mean doubt. It can mean all kinds of things, right? I gave them a lesson on that. I gave them a lesson on, in dating culture, going to get coffee is a date to determine if there's chemistry to have more dates. So I gave them a lesson on that. I gave them a lesson on the fact that men, particularly people like myself who have been through domestic violence and sexual assault, we are able to very clearly see those red flags and the nuances that aren't egregious, but they're there. And so I was able to list out those things in detail. Lots of promises were made from all three of these individuals. One being I would never have to work in a building with him again. Number two, we want you to train HR in this. Number three, we want you to help write new policy and then present it to the board. Okay. But the caveat being, let's dismiss this. Let's not go through with the appeal process with the board. Now, I was going to go through with the appeal. I wanted to go through with the appeal until I learned that I needed to be in the same room with him. Way to go. Way to re-traumatize. Way to create extra anxiety. Way to PTSD someone. Like, come on now. We both had to be in the room to tell our stories to the board. And then the board had to play judge and jury, even though none of the board had any legal background. And I thought about it for a little bit, and ultimately I decided I'm not a litigious person. I don't want to be a litigious person. I want to better this district that I'm in. So I will agree to these things that you've offered me. This was now probably mid-February of my second year in the teacher coach position. He was still on leave, and I was assured that they were going to figure things out and he wouldn't be back. Okay, cool. That's great. Then in my district, we also have a midwinter break. So mid to late February, we take a week to just, chill out. Usually it's in response to making sure that the flu is kept at bay, because that's really the season for the flu to be in full force, and it prevents, a multitude of teachers being out and then having substitute shortages, etc., etc. So we have a week off in mid to late February. And that week, just like my winter break, I was so emotionally drained from all of the shit that I'm dealing with around this harassment thing. And the fact that I'm getting that patriarchal sting, that stereotypical shaming that comes from women who step up and step out and say something. And I felt like I was not met with support. I mean, my district already proved to me that they weren't going to support me in really any capacity. I got apologies, but that didn't necessarily do anything. I got the whispers in the hallway. I got met with that physical distance. People who would, people who would move out of my way. Or even if I wasn't anywhere near them, you could see them shifting positionality so they didn't have to make eye contact, kind of thing. That unspoken slut-shaming kind of idea. And this stung because even though so many other adults in the building had experiences with him, or even if they hadn't had experience with him, they found him creepy, everybody pretty much wanted him gone because they were unimpressed with his teaching, and I could say the same thing. And And then the creep factor, right? Pretty much everybody wanted him gone. But now that, it's out in the open, people know it's me, I'm suddenly some sort of threat or somebody you don't want to associate with, even though I did nothing wrong. I did everything, socially speaking, to avoid any kind of outcome like this, but I'm not met with much support. There was one other teacher in the building who definitely was standing by my side and was really really supportive that I had come to speak up because of a situation with her and her family and this particular educator. And so we would kind of commiserate. And it was through her that I was able to see some emails around this teacher's hiring. And this is when the Medusa popped out in me again, because HR head in this email had said, I do not recommend offering him an interview. He's got problematic history that we would really need to look into, maybe just avoid. The person who was offering the interview was a buddy of his, who later on I would find out had a very similar history and left a district in another state under some pretty sketchy details. And for me, finding out that this person fought so hard for him to be here is like, it's bro code, Nah, I got you, dude. Let's just keep harming women. Let's keep doing it. Cool, It's patriarchy shaking hands and helping each other harm collectively, right? But the email from his buddy stated, HR had said, I don't recommend offering an interview. And his buddy said, I already have. And something to the effect of, the incident up for debate is adult to adult and questionable in nature. And I lost my ever-loving mind when I read that, because at what point in education do you never not work with other adults? And women at that. If this is this dude's history, and 80% of teachers are women, what the actual fuck? A dude who knows a dude who harm women in their own ways, saying, cool, let's hire somebody who lost his job somewhere else. And it's questionable in nature because it's adult to adult. Are you fucking kidding me? I lost my ever-loving mind. And I find this all out right about that midwinter break time. And it sent me into another spiral. I'm angry and I don't know what to do with this anger. I absolutely don't know what to do. And there's not really anybody I can go to, because I'm getting met with that, again, that stereotypical shaming, kind of the scarlet letter idea, right? That message is, you served your purpose, you called him out, but don't expect to be included anymore, and don't expect us to support you anymore. Like, you did your job. Awesome. And don't expect any kind of respect from us, and don't expect anyone to trust you professionally, because you are now that picture of a problematic woman and teacher. And that piece was such a profound piece of emotional violence, on top of, becoming a public person. My name is now formally attached to this guy. Legally attached to this guy. And now I'm also being met with this societal shame for having done what we're always taught to do, the right thing. But now I'm isolated and unseen, and I'm dealing with that direct manifestation of patriarchy's male-centeredness and the characteristics of abuse and violence. And again, it's not physical, psychological and systemic abuse. So my voice, my experience was petrified into silence. And that midwinter break was horrific again. And it's during this break that I was forwarded an article from the year 2000 detailing this person, this educator, this person who harassed me, detailing his being jailed for having invited a 16-year-old over to his place under the guise of helping him build a website. And then he fondled her. He went to jail, and because it was, he pleaded as a lesser charge, it wasn't something that, and so much time had passed, it wasn't something that he needed to disclose anymore. So when I tell you that my midwinter break is just full of absolute fucking rage, I don't even know what to do with myself. I couldn't sleep again. I couldn't eat. I couldn't function. I could only either sit on the sofa and stare at the fucking ceiling or circle my house randomly, just screaming out obscenities, talking to myself. Like, if anybody was looking in my windows, I probably looked like, the Hollywood version of, the mentally ill in an institution. I lost my shit. And when I came back from my midwinter break, the only real hope I had was that the powers that be, the people I had met with, would reach out and, hey, when are we going to meet and talk about this? When can we schedule a training for HR? What would be a good thing to address, next Wednesday for 30 minutes? Like, what aspect of this, right? Nobody ever followed through. I'm the harmed party, and I'm not in the habit of reminding grown-ass adults, hey, you made this promise. Are you going to follow through? Nobody followed through with me. And so now from late February into April, when we go on spring break, I'm just sitting around waiting for somebody to do something. And nothing happens. And the despair and the invisibility and I don't even have a word for anger that goes, like, rage doesn't even feel right. There's nothing that adequately describes how I was feeling by the time I hit spring break. And I knew I needed to take time off for my mental health, because everything that I had just dealt with goes against everything that I believe in and everything I've ever taught about advocacy, about standing up for yourself, your own rights, what's right for the rest of us. And I'm being shut down by the system and the people running the system. And then socially speaking, I'm being hit, on that end of the spectrum because of course I did the right thing, but it's shameful, quote unquote. By the time spring break rolled around, I had some serious self-harm thoughts. And I posted in a group that I called Chosen Family. We have a group thread, and I said something to the effect of, I am really, really struggling. I need to take time off. Who has done this, and what do I need to do? And thank God I have the friends that I have, the chosen family I have, because I was in a bad spot. And so with their help, I had a plan, and I went back to work for 1 week, and I got all the things that were needed for HR, and I put in for 2 weeks of medical leave. And because I had the sick time, I just decided to use that. So, we'll stop here for now. And I will continue probably the last chapter, but we'll see. I don't know. Might be 2 more. There's still more to the story. It's not done yet. So thank you everybody for listening. Again, I hope this resonates with someone out there, and hopefully, you're not alone. Our existence in this United Statesian world is very similar in a lot of capacities. Yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe, share with friends. My little podcast here will thrive with shares and subscriptions. So stay tuned for more. I'm gonna probably tell 1 or 2 more chapters, if you will, around how it is that I got to where I got to, where I'm now an entrepreneur running my own LLC and writing children's books and podcasting and facilitating and all the things. And no longer in the classroom. And then we've got work to do. I have very specific aspects of patriarchal culture that I really want to dive into with all of you. And we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in a little bit of a metaphysical, kind of witchy sort of way, and also a little bit of mythology sort of way. And then, of course, all the latest and greatest sociological data around women's studies, and where we find ourselves as a Western society here in the United States. So, again, thank you so much for being here. Joe B signing off for now.